All right, guys, it's Don again, and I am back in Salt Lake. I've been on the boat for the first 2 week stint up there, and several things to report. I did some recording up on the boat, so I'll cut a little bit of that in, and I've got some things that I've decided I definitely need, some of which I've already ordered because I've been back for a few days, and just a lot to bring you up to speed on. I've also had some really grounding, or I don't know what you want to call it, but sobering news over the last few days. And so I'll just tell you about that as well. So give me just a second and let's dive into it. Okay, well, I know I mentioned that, well, maybe I didn't mention it to you, but I'll tell you now. I've been talking about getting this type of boat for a long time now. So my quick boating history, sailboat Santana 22, I still own. It's out there in the driveway. I started out with my first power boat, was a 24-foot Chaparral, little cabin cruiser. I sold that. I moved up to a 32-foot Sea Ray. That was my first twin engine boat. That's the one that the marina one year up at Flaming Gorge made a mistake and didn't winterize the engines, and so they broke both of the blocks, froze them up tighter in a drum and broke them. So that had brand new engines in it, and shortly after that I wound up selling that to a guy down in San Diego. So that boat, I believe, is on the ocean down in San Diego now. So I've been boatless for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, something like that maybe. And I've, been kind of investing the money that I got from selling that boat with the intent of buying another one. And I knew I wanted a trawler, and I knew I wanted one up in the Pacific Northwest. However, my mother is terrified of the water. So every time I ever talked about having a boat, she kept saying, "You can't buy a boat until I die, because I don't want to have to be scared of you being out on the ocean." So after I bought this boat, I kind of polled all the siblings and said, should I tell Mom that I bought the boat, or should I just not tell her? Because that's what I told her. I said, I'm going to buy a boat. I'm just not going to tell you. Well, we finally decided to tell her. So I did tell her, and she'll be all right. But that's not the thing I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about a little bit was this kind of achievement of a goal, or I mean, that really is what it is. I've had a goal to buy this boat, and I've been working, again, if you look back on this particular playlist of the YouTube channel here, you can see the other boat that we looked at about 3 years ago that was a trawler up in the Pacific Northwest. And so I've been working at this for a while to get to where I'm at today. And there's always that little voice in the back of your head going, are you doing the right thing? You're single. You just got you and the dog, who's going to be on the boat most of the time. This is a pretty good sized boat, and the fears can start to play in on you. Am I going to be able to dock this thing okay? Am I going to be able to handle it okay? Am I going to get caught in a storm? Am I going to wash up on the rocks? All the stuff that people are scared of when you say you're going to get a boat. But you put that away and you convince yourself that it's going to be okay and I'm doing the right thing. But in the past few days, I've had 2 calls from 2 of my long-term customers, both of which were calling to tell me that their health has taken a really bad turn. They've got cancer, both of them, and are, counting the days till the end, till the lights go out. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever had people you work with get to that point in time, it does kind of clarify things a little bit. It makes you start to realize that, you can either fool around and dream about doing this stuff, or you can just go do it, make it happen and do it. And the hell with the fears, I mean, they're just fears. They're like fear of anything else. A fear of success, fear of speaking in public, fear of anything else. It's all in your brain, the fear is. And you can build it up and let it incapacitate you and keep you from doing anything, or you can take a lesson from these folks that call me up and are, have been working their jobs until, unfortunately, realistically, almost till the day they die. And then they're done and they're done. And I don't know, I can't pass judgment if either of those folks have done everything they wanted to do with their lives. But I know they're probably starting to really consider that. I've got a limited amount of time left. What do I need to do? And unfortunately, they were calling me to say, well, I'm finally gonna stop working. One of them's in his late 80s, and he's just moving into hospice. And gosh, I just don't want to be in that shape. I don't want to be at the end of the road going, well, I dreamed about taking my own boat to Alaska for 30 years and never did it, but I sure had a great dream about it. I'd much rather be washed up on the rocks one day and looking back on, at least I tried and at least I did what I wanted to do, than to never have done it in the first place. So I know that's a little deep, and that's a kind of a rough way to start a video out, but that's realistically what I've been going through. And what it has done for me is it sure has made me realize that this is all worth it, and I'm doing the right thing for me. All right, guys, well, I've been aboard this thing for a week now, so I thought it was time to take a minute to kind of give you my thoughts and let you know what's going on so far. So we're at the end of a dock, so we're about as far from the parking lot as you can get, I think. And unfortunately, Lilu is doing what I expected. She's needing a lot of walks. So she's a puppy, and that means she wants to meet everybody. And it's funny because some people walk around with a little bag of treats in their pocket. Literally, I've had several people give her treats. One of the guys down the dock here carries a little thing of dog food in his pocket. And so, but other people, freak out. I mean, I've had a couple of people, like one guy lurched back with his arms up like this, like she was going to rip his throat out or something. So I've had a few death stares from the grumpy people, and then the rest of the people are generally pretty nice. So, but we are walking our tails off. So she's got that little electronic collar. It's got the GPS thing in case she gets lost and so forth. And that thing tracks her steps. And we've been averaging about 30,000 steps a day, somewhere on the order of 7 or 8 miles of walking. And she doesn't have a problem with that. I'm getting my tail worked off. So me, not so good. Her, she's great because she's a puppy and she's got nothing but energy. I have met a few of the people on the dock. I've met the next door neighbor and the last boat to the north. And they're all very nice. And a few people down this way, very nice as well. I think maybe there's something about living on your boat in a marina that makes people naturally nicer because A, you're on a boat, and B, you have something in common with everybody you meet, boats. So, I don't know, it seems like maybe there is something to be said for living on a boat. It makes you happier. How's the boat been so far? Well, grocery shopping is taking a little bit of a turn because I was used to being able to just run to Harmon's, 5 minutes away whenever. And I'm finding that I have to plan a little bit more because obviously further to go, I kind of have to make a journey off the marina into town. There's a grocery store not too terribly far away, but I am just having to plan better than I've planned in the past. No real problem so far. I've found the manuals for most of the equipment, and anything I can't find the manual on, I've been able to download. So I haven't gotten through all that stuff yet, but I think I'm making it. And like, for instance, the Simrad chart plotter up top, I found a good video from Simrad that was like introduction to it, and they've got a whole bunch of videos on how to use it. So I think that'll be good. I have found a few things that got past the surveyor. One is this thing's wired for stereo. I don't know if you can see, there's speakers in the ceiling up top. There's a couple up here in the bulkhead and 2 in the back of the main cabin. There's some in the master cabin. There's some in the guest cabin. There's some up on the flybridge. And over here on the wall on the starboard side inside the cabin, there's 2 great big 600 watt subwoofers. I'm not sure why you need so much bass on a boat like this, but they're in there. However, they don't seem to be working properly. So the stereo is just a stereo head unit. There's a 10-disc CD changer next to it, but there's a little equalizer up above it. And I think that equalizer is having some issues because you kind of touch it and it, go to turn the knob and it'll act like it's shorting out, kind of do that, really loud noise. And then if you kind of get it where it's working, then it works. But I'm going to mess around with it a little bit. And I think I like sound, I like music, so it'll be worth doing, I think, to get that sorted out. Let's see, what else? The lighting is, it's old and it's not very bright. Now, one thing I'll just tell you, if you're not old, as you get older, it's harder to read stuff if you don't have bright light and so forth. And everything's either kind of these dome lights in the ceiling or little strip lights and whatever. So I'm gonna kind of make a pass through all the lighting and see if I can't. I found where I can replace these domes. There's one right up here above me with LEDs. And for this area right above the nav station here, which is where I'm sitting, you want to do one that flips back and forth between white light and red light, because at night you want red light so you don't ruin your night vision. If you're driving at night, I don't really plan to be doing that much, but anyway, so yeah, I think I've found replacements for those. It looks like they screw right in and they're the same size and everything, so that's fine. Down in the master cabin, on either side of the bed, there are these two lantern kind of lights. And I remember the guy saying, oh yeah, those work just fine. And I thought, oh good, kind of bedside reading lights. No, they're red and green lights, like your running lights on your boat. And somebody thought that was really cool. I don't. So those will probably go. And as I do this, I might look at seeing if I can't put in kind of smart lighting, because nowadays, you can put in kind of smart bulbs that have a little bit of logic in them where you can turn them down remotely with your phone, with an app on your phone and that kind of thing. So where I need lights is under the counters in the kitchen. There's some old, skanky, old little fluorescent things. There's lights around the top of the cabin on the outboard sides here. There's a recess up in there, and there's these little 12-inch fluorescents up there, none of which I can seem to get to work. So I don't know if the bulbs are just burned out or what, but I'll make sure I have voltage there, and assuming I still have power, I'll probably replace those. And similarly, I'll do something better, maybe even a longer, just an LED strip or something that can change colors. So set the mood just right. So yeah, I did order a set of those wireless headsets where you have the one ear muff and a mic for docking, because I know that I'll have different people helping me dock from time to time, the kids and whoever. So if I'm up on the fly bridge and somebody's in the back, I want to be able to communicate easily without having to yell, because I think that's the one thing that causes a little bit of stress to go up on what is already kind of a stressful situation, docking the boat. And I think I'm also going to look into, I have found a stern thruster that can be, it kind of bolts to the bottom of the swim platform. And it looks to me like then up on the bridge, the thruster control can have both the stern and forward or bow and stern thrusters together. And you can get a little remote control that goes on a lanyard around your neck. So you could kind of pull into the dock, or as you come up to a dock, stop the boat, step out on the side where you got to work the lines and run your thrusters to kind of walk you over sideways. So I think that would be a good investment, given that I'm kind of probably going to be single-handed a fair amount. So, but yeah, I think so far so good. The previous owner had done the last service on the engines right before I took ownership. So they had the guy come in and change all the oil and all the Raycor fuel filters and all that. And he had emailed me and said, okay, that's all done. And they told you they want you to start the engines and run them up to temp to make sure there's no bubbles in the fuel system. Well, I did that. And I started with the starboard side engine, everything's fine. The port side fuel pressure or oil pressure gauge is not registering anything, like not moving at all over here on the dash down here. The oil pressure alarm goes out right away, and I have been down in the engine bay and made sure I had oil in there. Didn't want to make sure somebody didn't forget the oil, but it looks like I might have a bad gauge. So these dash components screw in and out, so I'm going to pop them out, swap the gauges, put the gauge that I know is working over on the other side, and see if it's the gauge, or maybe I got a bad wire or sending unit or something. But I'm fairly confident that it's not really an oil pressure problem, because I think we'd have known that right away. And I think obviously the guy who did the oil change must have started it up, make sure he didn't have any leaks or anything. So more to come on that, and I may set the camera up when I break into this dash. Well, I probably will for my use anyway, to make sure I remember where everything goes, but I'll let you look over my shoulder when I start into that process. So the way boats work, if you're not a boater, is you plug into shore power in the slip, and then the shore power is running kind of battery chargers that charging your house bank of batteries, and you have this one, I think, has 4 big, like 48 volt or 10 volt, I don't know, big heavy deep cycle house batteries, and they're new, and everything's been going really well with them, except I've been messing around with the inverter and the charger buttons, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I think I wound up kind of turning the charger off. And so the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night and the furnace was kicking on and off. Now this has a diesel fired, it's called a Wabasco hydroponic something or other furnace. So it has a little ignition furnace unit that burns diesel out of the diesel tank and heats up water, actually ethylene glycol, that then circulates around to several places in the cabin, and you force air through those radiators when they get to the right spots, and that's how you warm the thing. So what happens when you normally hear it is the fan turns on, the water pump turns on, then you hear the thing ignite, and then after a while it shuts off and fans turn off. Well, the other night I woke up and the fan was turning on and off. I was in bed and I could hear just the fan from down there, and it was turning on, turning off, turning on, turning off. So I was like, something's wrong. Then all of a sudden the cabin lit up and there was a bleep, like some piece of equipment was starting up. So then I was really going, what the heck is going on? Well, then it all went, the cabin went dark again, and the fan shut off, and then the fan turned on again, and then bleep, bleep, and then the cabin lit up, and it was like, I don't know what the heck is going on. So I came out here and was looking at the panel, and what happened is the batteries had run down to the point where they were just too low to keep the inverter running. They would turn it on for a second, it would turn on the fan. This TV behind me in the wall, its default setting, it looks like, when the power comes back on, is to be turned on. So that was turning on, and that was lighting up the living room here and making the noise, and then it would shut back off and so forth. So I'm pretty sure I have that sorted out now, and I may show you that in a bit here, kind of how everything works. But there's really 3 needle gauges in the switch panel down there. One is showing our input power from the shore power. One is showing how many, I think it's ohms of juice we're using, and then one is showing the battery state. So now, since I have it the way I think it is the proper way, the batteries are staying in the green, charger seems to be taking care of them. I haven't touched it for a couple of days, and I'm going to try to go all this following week without touching it at all, so that I'm confident that everything is maintaining the batteries, so that while I go back to Salt Lake for 2 weeks, I'll know at least the fridge will keep running. I'll turn everything else off, and I'll turn the furnace way down to like 40 degrees just to keep it from freezing up. But not that I really think it's going to be that cold, but I do just want to make sure I got that sorted. So that's one major system that I've been, I'll be honest, struggling a little bit with. Now, I'll just tell you, the previous owner said several times, you can just call me anytime if you have a question. And some part of me, and I guess maybe it's the part of men that won't let us stop and ask directions. Some part of me just doesn't want to call that guy and go, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? I'm sure some people I'd be perfectly comfortable with that. I am a person who's not, and so I don't really want to do that. So trying to figure it out on my own, read the manuals, understand this stuff, and not bother that guy. Because, I mean, when it comes right down to it, he sold his boat. It's gone. I mean, and I sold my boat, my last boat, and I didn't really want to be, talking to the guy I sold it to all the time. I sold him my boat, and, he was gone, I was gone. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Gray is coming up next week on Wednesday. She's flying in, and she'll be here Thursday and Friday, and then probably over sometime Saturday, maybe early Saturday or maybe midday, and stop somewhere. We'll head back to Salt Lake. So she's just coming up for a couple days for her very first visit to the boat. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I'll be back in Salt Lake for 2 weeks, like I said, and my plan then is to jump back on the Jeep and get that thing rolling along and kind of get ready for 2 weeks back up here. So far, I think that's going to work okay. My folks at the office haven't been too needy so far, so that's going all right. Well, one good thing about having to get up and walk the dog early in the morning is you sure do get some nice views of the sunrise coming up to light up the mountains in the distance. There's this heron that walks around and hangs out on this wind flight boat. It's a big Nordhaven. And the boat next door to it has a cat who sits on the bow and just studies that bird, just thinking, boy, if you were closer, I'd get you for sure. But anyway, so we're getting introduced to the local flora and fauna. And on one of the days, it was a perfect day for sailing. So the local yacht club looked like they were out having a little bit of a race. And yeah, it's been some nice evenings up there and some nice mornings. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to wrap this up now, but I got to tell you a couple things. So next time you see me, I'll be heading back up to Seattle with a couple of things under my arm that I've purchased already that I know I'm going to install on the boat. One of them is a cellular signal booster. So I bought the WeBoost Drive Reach Overland version. So I have it right here. It came in already. This is the one that they recommend for overlanders that works the best, the farthest away from towers, and works the best when you're moving. Both of which I plan on doing in the boat, being moving and being far away from towers. So I'll take that with me and hook that back up hook it up, so I should be able to work as much as possible or have as good a connectivity as possible whilst traveling, so that my people can get a hold of me and I can answer emails and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I have purchased already is a little water purifier. It's made by a company called Acuva or something. But it goes under the galley sink. You put a little dedicated spigot there and it purifies your drinking water as it goes through there using ultraviolet light. So I'll be putting one of those on there. Now the reason I did that is because, when you're on a boat, you're drinking the water that's sitting in the tank that's in the boat, and those tanks have been in that boat for 37 years. I mean, that's how old the boat is. So, who knows what's going on inside of those things. And also, you're filling them just through a 2-inch hole in the top of the boat. You take the cap out and drop a hose in there and fill them up. And so I'm sure, stuff gets in there, dirt and bacteria and all that kind of thing. So I did want to make sure I was drinking good, clean water. So I'll take one of those up there. I am looking at also adding a water maker so I can make my own water when I'm underway. And but I'll get to that probably. Not in a huge hurry for that, but that's kind of my ultimate goal, is to be able to generate my water on the fly and then purify it on the fly. So, kind of killed both of those birds. And then last but not least, I did get myself a little post office box up there, and I checked with them, and I can now finally make use of one of these Naked Wine $100 wine vouchers that I got. Every time I was working on the Jeep and I ordered a big order from Summit Racing, I would get one of these little cards, and I got a stack of these cards. I don't know why I've been keeping the whole stack, but I have been. So I'm sure I can only sign up once, but this is kind of like your $100 off, get you started on a wine subscription, where they kind of, send you different flavors of wines, and you try different varieties and all that kind of thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I have verified with the folks that run that place that I can, in fact, have wine shipped to me. I wanted to use one of these here at the house, but you can't ship wine to Utah. So there you have it. If you're along for the Jeep project, I do expect to be down in the garage soon working back on that again. And then you'll see me again on the boat project here in about another week and a half. I'll be heading up there. It's middle of the first week that I've been back, so I'll be in town the rest of this week and all of next week, and then I plan to head north again. So until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next time around.